The Avengers never saw it arrive. No portal ripping through reality, no thunder announcing a god's descent, no warning broadcasts from S.H.I.E.L.D. satellites, just a sudden spike in atmospheric heat over the North Atlantic, dismissed as sensor malfunction, and then silence. The kind of silence that precedes extinction events. Something had entered Earth's orbit with the patience of a predator circling wounded prey, and it had been watching humanity for 3 days before the first body disappeared. Not a superhero, not a politician, just a construction worker in Queens who never came home, leaving behind only scorched pavement and the faint smell of ozone that sanitation crews would scrub away by morning. Deep in the thermosphere, a ship hung motionless against the void, its hull absorbing light like a black hole drinks stars. Inside, crimson eyes studied holographic projections of Earth's surface, scanning, categorizing, evaluating. The Yautja pilot tilted his massive head, mandibles clicking in what might have been satisfaction. This world was perfect, overpopulated with warriors, militarized to the point of constant conflict, and most importantly, it had apex predators who believed themselves untouchable, the kind of arrogance that made for worthy trophies. His clawed fingers traced thermal signatures across New York City, marking concentrations of enhanced biology, technological anomalies, and combat-trained specimens. This wasn't invasion. This was selection. The first hunt began on a Tuesday night in Hell's Kitchen, a S.H.I.E.L.D. tactical team responding to reports of unusual activity near the docks. Gang violence, they assumed. Maybe Hydra remnants testing new weapons. Standard sweep and clear operation. 6 trained operatives with military-grade equipment and direct comms to headquarters. They entered the warehouse at 23:47 hours. By 23:52, communications went dark, not just jammed, not disrupted, just stopped. When the backup team arrived 15 minutes later, they found weapons laid out in perfect rows, tactical vests folded with surgical precision, and 6 empty suits of body armor arranged like trophies on display. No blood, no bodies, no evidence of struggle, just the lingering heat signature of something that had stood there, watching, waiting for them to arrive and find the message. You were part of that backup team. S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Marcus Webb, 3 years in tactical operations, 2 tours in classified conflicts before recruitment. You'd seen enhanced individuals tear through armored vehicles. You'd watched alien tech disintegrate concrete. You'd been trained to expect the impossible and respond with protocol. But standing in that warehouse, staring at your colleagues' empty gear arranged like museum pieces, you felt something you'd never experienced in all your combat operations. The primal recognition that something was hunting you, not fighting you, not attacking your position. Hunting, studying, learning your patterns, your tactics, your weaknesses. And it had already claimed 6 trained killers without leaving a single drop of blood behind. If you want to witness what happens when Earth's mightiest heroes discover they're not the apex predators anymore, stay with this story. Because what arrived in our world doesn't care about your powers, your armor, or your reputation. It only cares whether you're worthy of the hunt. And in the Yautja's cold calculus, even gods are just prey waiting to prove themselves. Your commanding officer ordered immediate facility lockdown and contacted Avengers Tower, standard procedure for unknown enhanced threats. But as you stood perimeter watch outside that warehouse, scanning thermal signatures and jump ready for combat, you noticed something that made your blood crystallize. The heat signatures on your scanner weren't behaving like normal environmental patterns. They were moving, circling, pacing the rooftops around your position with the methodical patience of something that had all the time in the world. Something that didn't need to rush because it had already won. You keyed your radio to report it, but stopped mid-breath when you heard it. A sound like clicking, rhythmic, almost conversational, coming from directly above your position. You looked up into empty space, nothing visible against the night sky. No silhouette breaking the ambient light from the city, but your thermal scanner showed a heat signature 8 feet tall, humanoid, standing motionless on the fire escape 20 feet above you, watching, waiting. You raised your weapon, finger moving to the trigger, combat instincts screaming to fire. Fire now, eliminate the threat. But before you could squeeze, the signature vanished, not moved, not displaced, just gone, like it had never existed. Your scanner showed nothing, your eyes saw nothing, but every combat instinct you'd honed over years of warfare whispered the truth you didn't want to accept. Whatever had taken your team was still here, and it was deciding what at. Heather, you were worth killing. The clicking sound came again, closer this time, intimate as a whisper against your ear. And in that moment, standing in the shadow of a warehouse where 6 trained killers had been erased from existence, you understood something that would haunt you for the rest of your short life. This wasn't an invasion. This wasn't a villain testing Earth's defenses. This was something far worse. This was a hunter who had looked at humanity's greatest champions, beings who could shatter mountains and redirect cosmic forces, and seen only trophies waiting to be claimed. The Marvel Universe had spent decades believing itself prepared for anything. Tonight, it would learn what it felt like to be prey. The clicking stopped. You didn't lower your weapon, couldn't, even as your arms trembled from holding aim at empty air. Your backup team flooded the perimeter 30 seconds later, flashlights cutting through darkness, voices demanding status reports. You told them what you saw, what your scanner detected, the 8-foot thermal signature that vanished like smoke. Your team leader, Agent Reyes, checked your equipment for malfunctions, ran diagnostics, found nothing wrong. Then she looked at you with the kind of expression that said she believed you, which somehow made it worse. Because if your gear was working correctly, then something impossible was walking through S.H.I.E.L.D.'s perimeter defenses like they were children's toys. By dawn, the warehouse was swarming with enhanced threat specialists, and you were benched pending psychological evaluation. That same night, 3 more people disappeared across Manhattan. A Roxxon security detail guarding a weapons depot in the Bronx, gone, their vehicles still running, coffee still warm in thermoses. 2 mercenaries with AIM connections who'd been operating out of a condemned building in Brooklyn vanished mid-contract, leaving behind only their weapons arranged in that same disturbing pattern. And a lone vigilante in Harlem, someone who'd been stopping muggings and gang violence for 6 months, someone the neighborhood called their guardian, never seen again. S.H.I.E.L.D. compiled the reports by morning. Director Hill read them twice, then ordered every available asset to threat level orange. Not because of the body count, because of what was missing from the crime scenes. No rage, no chaos, no collateral damage, just surgical precision and invisible execution. The pattern became clear within 72 hours. Whatever was hunting on Earth wasn't killing indiscriminately. It was selecting targets with terrifying specificity. Combat-trained individuals, armed professionals, people who fought back, who knew how to kill. The Roxxon guards were ex-military, decorated veterans of 3 conflicts. The IM mercenaries had enhanced cybernetics and military-grade augmentations. The Harlem vigilante was a former Golden Gloves boxer who'd hospitalized 14 armed attackers in 6 months. Every victim was a predator in their own right. Every victim had been evaluated, tested, and found worthy of something worse than death, worthy of being erased from existence without a trace. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Behavioral Analysis Unit presented their findings to the Avengers. Their conclusion was clinical, terrifying. We're not dealing with a killer, we're dealing with a hunter who's grading its prey. You watched that briefing from the observation room, still technically benched but too valuable as a witness. To send home, Steve Rogers stood at the center of the conference table, arms crossed, jaw tight. Natasha Romanoff studied the crime scene photos with the cold focus of someone who recognized hunting patterns because she'd been trained in them. Tony Stark ran simulations on holographic displays, trying to reverse engineer the technology that could make something 8 feet tall completely invisible to every scanning method S.H.I.E.L.D. possessed. And Bruce Banner, quiet in the corner, said something that made everyone stop. It's not hiding from our technology, it's adapting to it, learning it. Every time we scan, every time we sweep, it's gathering data on how we hunt. The room went silent, because that meant every attempt to find this thing was teaching it how to avoid being found. The disappearances accelerated, not in frequency, but in boldness. A SWAT team responding to a hostage situation in Queens. 3 members never made it out of the building, their body cams showing nothing but static before cutting to black. A damage control crew investigating destroyed property in Manhattan. The foreman vanished between one radio check and the next, 20 feet from his crew, in broad daylight. Someone even took down a low-level enhanced individual, a street fighter with minor super strength who'd been making money in underground fighting rings. His body was found 3 days later, displayed on a rooftop in Brooklyn, spine removed with surgical precision, skull missing. The medical examiner's report used words like trophy collection and ritual significance. The Avengers stopped calling it an unknown threat. They started calling it what it was, something that hunted for sport. You were cleared for duty on day 6, right when S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't have enough warm bodies to stay benched. They partnered you with Agent Chen, a surveillance specialist who'd worked enhanced threat cases for 8 years. Your new assignment: monitor thermal and electromagnetic signatures across a 3-block radius in Lower Manhattan, where 2 fighters had disappeared within 48 hours. Chen briefed you in the surveillance van, her voice steady despite the tension in her shoulders. Protocol is simple. We don't engage, we don't investigate, we observe and report. If you see anything, and I mean anything, that matches the thermal profile from the warehouse, you call it in and we extract immediately. You nodded, checking your scanner, your sidearm, your backup weapon. All standard procedure, all completely inadequate against something that treated S.H.I.E.L.D.'s best technology like a learning exercise. Hour 3 of surveillance, Chen spotted it first. A heat signature on a rooftop, 200 meters north. Humanoid, massive, stationary, not hiding, just standing there, visible on thermal, like it wanted to be seen. Chen's hands moved across her console, trying to get visual confirmation, cycling through every camera feed in the area. Nothing. Infrared showed the signature clear as day, but every camera pointed at that rooftop showed empty space. "That's impossible," Chen whispered, her voice cracking on the last syllable. "Thermodynamics doesn't work like that. If it's generating heat, it should be visible." You watched the signature on your scanner, watched it tilt its head. You could see the movement in the thermal outline, as if it knew you were watching, as if it was acknowledging your observation. Then it moved. Not toward you, toward something else. Your scanner tracked its path across rooftops, moving with impossible speed and silence, heading east toward the Financier Al district. Chen was already on comms, reporting to command, coordinating intercept teams. But you kept your eyes on the thermal signature, watching it move with purpose, with direction, like it was tracking something specific. And then you saw what it was hunting. Another thermal signature, smaller, human-sized, moving through an alley 3 blocks ahead. Someone walking home from a late shift, unaware, unarmed, completely vulnerable. You opened your mouth to warn them, to call it in, but the predator signature dropped from the rooftop and both heat sources converged in the alley below. For 3 seconds, they overlapped on your scanner. Then only one signature remained, and it wasn't the human one. Chen's voice was screaming coordinates into the radio, and you realized with sickening certainty that you'd just witnessed another selection, another evaluation, another hunt that humanity had no power to stop. The response team arrived 4 minutes later, 4 minutes too long. You and Chen were first on scene, weapons drawn, scanning every shadow in that alley with the desperate intensity of soldiers who knew they were already too late. The alley was empty. Not clean, not sanitized, just empty in a way that felt deliberate. A single shoe lay near a dumpster, laces still tied, a dropped phone with the screen still glowing, showing a text message half-typed, "Almost home, love you." No blood, no body, no signs of struggle, just that shoe and that phone, and the overwhelming absence of a human being who'd existed 4 minutes ago. Chen's scanner showed residual heat signatures, but they were fading fast, dissipating into the cold November air like the person had simply evaporated. You knelt beside the phone, watching the screen dim to black, and understood something that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s briefings had failed to communicate. This thing didn't just kill, it erased. It took people out of existence so completely that even their final moments left no trace. S.H.I.E.L.D. locked down 6 blocks. Forensics teams swept every surface, collected every fiber, analyzed every molecule of air. They found nothing useful, some unusual particulate matter that didn't match any known element, trace amounts of an unidentified metal alloy, and thermal residue that shouldn't exist at ground level. Dr. Simmons from S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Science Division spent 16 hours analyzing the samples, then delivered her report with the kind of quiet horror reserved for discoveries that rewrite fundamental assumptions. Whatever took this person used technology that operates outside our current understanding of physics. The thermal signature suggests directed energy weapons, but there's no radiation, no electromagnetic discharge, no evidence of conventional energy transfer. It's like the weapon exists in a different spectrum of reality than our instruments can measure. Translation: S.H.I.E.L.D.'s entire technological advantage was useless against something that played by different rules. The victim was identified by morning. Sarah Chen, no relation to your partner, 28 years old, worked as a nurse at Metro General Hospital. No criminal record, no combat training, no enhanced abilities, just a civilian walking home from a double shift, exhausted and texting her girlfriend, completely outside the pattern of previous victims. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s behavioral analysis unit scrambled to revise their profile. If the hunter was targeting civilians now, if it had expanded beyond trained combatants, then the entire threat assessment was wrong. But Tony Stark, reviewing the case files in Avengers Tower, noticed something everyone else had missed. Sarah Chen wasn't random. She'd treated 14 gunshot victims in the past month, gang members, criminals, people who'd been shot during violent confrontations. She'd saved lives that by certain moral calculations maybe shouldn't have been saved. Stark's voice was quiet when he presented this to the team. It's not hunting civilians, it's hunting people who interact with violence, even tangentially, even as healers. That revelation changed everything, because if the hunter was targeting anyone connected to combat, soldiers, fighters, criminals, and now even medical personnel who treated them, then the potential victim pool was half of New York City. S.H.I.E.L.D. Director Hill ordered enhanced protection for all medical facilities, all police precincts, all fire stations. But you could see it in her eyes when she gave the order, the same recognition you'd felt in that warehouse. Protection was an illusion. You can't protect against something you can't see, can't track, can't predict. All you could do was watch the casualty reports grow and try to find patterns in the hunting grounds. The Predator, that's what Stark started calling it, and the name stuck, was teaching humanity a lesson in humility. Every defense system, every protocol, every advantage Earth's heroes possessed was being systematically evaluated and dismissed. You stopped sleeping after Sarah Chen. Every time you closed your eyes, you saw thermal signatures converging in alleys, heard that clicking sound echoing through empty spaces. Chen, Agent Chen, your partner, noticed during day shift surveillance. She didn't comment, just handed you coffee that was more espresso than anything else, and shared her own nightmares. I keep thinking about the pattern, she said, eyes fixed on scanner displays. The way it arranges the gear, the weapons, the trophies. That's not psychopathy, that's ritual, like it's honoring them somehow, respecting what they were before it killed them. You'd thought the same thing, which made it worse. Because rage you could understand, hatred you could fight, but respect, honor, how do you combat a killer that sees murder as a form of acknowledgement? How do you stop something that believes it's giving you the death you deserve? The Avengers attempted their first direct engagement on day 9. Hawkeye and Black Widow, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s finest hunters tracking the hunter. They'd analyzed every crime scene, mapped every thermal anomaly, predicted the next hunting ground with 73% confidence. They were right. The Predator appeared exactly where Stark's algorithms predicted, on a rooftop overlooking a warehouse where a known mercenary cell was operating. Hawkeye had the perfect shot. Arrow nocked, breathing steady, finger on release. But the moment he committed to the shot, the thermal signature vanished. Not moved. Vanished. Natasha reported hearing that clicking sound behind them, spun with weapons raised, found nothing. When they reviewed their body cam footage later, there was a single frame, 1/30th of a second, where something massive stood 3 feet behind Hawkeye. Mandibles spread, claws extended, just watching, then it was gone. Natasha Romanoff didn't rattle easily. She'd been trained by the Red Room, faced down gods and monsters, stared into the abyss more times than most people had nightmares. But when she briefed the team on what happened, her hands shook. "It let us find it," she said. "It knew we were there. It could have killed us both. Instead, it waited until we were committed, showed itself for a fraction of a second, and left, like it was saying, 'I see you, I'm just not interested yet.'" Captain America asked the question everyone was thinking. "Then what is it interested in?" Natasha's answer was barely a whisper. "Finding out what we're actually capable of. We're not prey yet, we're still just test subjects." The implication hung in the air like radiation. The Predator wasn't hunting Earth's heroes, it was studying them, learning their capabilities. And when it finally decided they were worthy, the real hunt would begin. You watched that briefing from the observers. Chundak, still technically just a field agent, still processing trauma from crime scenes that felt like horror movie sets, but you understood something the Avengers hadn't grasped yet. You'd seen this thing up close, felt its presence, heard its voice in mechanical clicks, watched it move through S.H.I.E.L.D.'s defenses like water through paper, and you knew with absolute certainty that when it finally decided to hunt Earth's champions, when it moved beyond study into actual combat, humanity's greatest heroes would discover they'd never actually been apex predators at all. They'd just been living in a universe that hadn't introduced them to something higher on the food chain. Until now. Until a ship arrived in silent orbit and something with honor and ritual and patient cruelty decided Earth qualified as worthy hunting grounds. The clicking sound haunted your dreams, and every night it got closer. The disappearances stopped on day 12, completely. No new victims, no thermal anomalies, no clicking sounds in the dark. S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers interpreted this as victory. Their enhanced patrols and coordinated surveillance had driven the threat away or underground. Press conferences were held. Director Hill assured the public that the situation was contained. News anchors spoke about the brief, enhanced threat incident in past tense, already moving on to the next crisis. But you knew better. Sitting in the surveillance van with Chen, watching empty streets through thermal imaging, you felt the truth in your bones. The Predator hadn't left, it had simply finished studying. The sudden silence wasn't absence. It was the moment before a predator strikes, when the world holds its breath and prey animals freeze in recognition of their own mortality. Somewhere in New York's concrete jungle, something was preparing for the real hunt to begin. Day 13 brought the first deliberate message. A rooftop in Midtown, visible from Avengers Tower, accessible by 3 different S.H.I.E.L.D. surveillance routes. Something had arranged 17 human skulls in a perfect circle, each one bleached white and marked with symbols that no Earth database could identify. The forensics team worked in hazmat suits, treating the scene like biological warfare. Dr. Simmons identified the victims, all that disappeared from the past 2 weeks, all the people who'd vanished without trace. Their skulls had been prepared with techniques that suggested both surgical precision and ritual significance, the bone polished to mirror smoothness, the markings burned in with tools that left no chemical residue. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s xenoanthropology consultant, Dr. Foster, provided the analysis that made everyone's blood run cold. These aren't trophies of shame, they're trophies of honor. This is how a warrior culture remembers worthy opponents. You stood at the perimeter of that rooftop crime scene, watching forensics work, and felt something break inside your chest. These people, Sarah Chen, the nurse, the Harlem vigilante, the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents from the warehouse, they hadn't just been killed. They'd been evaluated, found worthy, and transformed into monuments. Somewhere in this city, something walked around wearing their spines as proof of victory, carrying pieces of them as religious artifacts. The horror wasn't in the violence. The horror was in the reverence. This thing respected its victims more than most killers respect the living. It had given them the death they deserved by its ancient calculus. And now it was announcing to Earth's heroes that the preliminary phase was over. The test subjects had been processed. The real prey could step forward. The Avengers responded with force. Coordinated patrols, every major hero on rotation, overlapping Coco. Varage across all 5 boroughs. Iron Man deployed a network of micro-satellites specifically designed to detect thermal anomalies and cloaking technology. Captain America organized street-level teams with comms protocols that updated every 6 minutes. Black Widow and Hawkeye ran counter-surveillance from rooftops, hunting the hunter with tradecraft learned from decades of espionage. For 48 hours, New York City existed under the most comprehensive superhero protection in history. And for 48 hours, nothing happened. The Predator remained invisible, silent, absent. S.H.I.E.L.D. analysts theorized it had finally retreated. Tony Stark wasn't convinced. He stood in the tower's command center, studying satellite feeds, and said what you'd been thinking. It's watching us deploy, learning our response patterns. We're not protecting the city, we're showing it exactly how we fight. Hour 51 of the lockdown, the Predator made its move, not against the Avengers, against someone outside their protection grid. Luke Cage, operating independently in Harlem, responding to reports of a weapons deal in an abandoned subway station. He went in alone, standard for him, invulnerable skin made backup unnecessary. His last radio check was 22:34 hours. Location secure, no hostiles present, checking the lower tunnels. At 22:37, his comms went dead. Not jammed, not disrupted, just silent. The response team found him 40 minutes later, unconscious, bleeding from facial lacerations that shouldn't exist on skin that could stop bullets. His chest showed massive impact trauma, ribs fractured despite his enhanced durability, and carved into the concrete wall above his body, burned in with plasma so hot it had melted the stone, was a single symbol, a skull, stylized and alien, marking this as a hunting ground. Luke Cage survived, barely. He woke in the medical bay at Avengers Tower, every breath agony despite accelerated healing, and told his story through split lips. It hit me before I even saw it. Faster than anything I fought. Strong enough to hurt me, actually hurt me, through skin that shrugged off explosions. We traded blows for maybe 30 seconds. Then it just stopped. Knocked me down, stood over me, and I swear to God it was analyzing me, deciding if I was worth killing. He paused, hands shaking despite enhanced physiology. It touched my face right here with these claws. Could have gutted me, chose not to. Then it vanished and I heard this sound. Like laughter, but mechanical. Like it was satisfied with the test. Bruce Banner examined the plasma burns on the wall, ran spectral analysis, and delivered the verdict everyone feared. This technology is centuries ahead of anything on Earth, maybe millennia. We're not fighting an enhanced human or an alien conqueror. We're fighting something from a civilization that perfected warfare before humans discovered fire. The attack on Luke Cage changed the mathematics of fear. If someone with unbreakable skin could be beaten, tested, and dismissed as unworthy of killing, then no one was safe. Not the enhanced, not the super soldiers, not even the gods. S.H.I.E.L.D. implemented mandatory buddy systems for all personnel. The Avengers stopped operating solo. Civilians flooded out of New York by the thousands, creating traffic jams that lasted days. But you stayed. You and Chen and a dozen other field agents who'd seen too much to run, who understood that running just meant dying somewhere else. You volunteered for night patrols in the highest risk zones, scanning empty streets with equipment that you knew was useless, holding weapons that couldn't hurt something you couldn't see. Chen asked you once why you stayed. You told her the truth. Because I saw it that first night. I looked into empty air and felt it looking back. and I need to understand what we're really facing before it decides I'm worthy of being remembered. Night 17, your scanner picked up the signature again, same rooftop where you'd first detected it, same 8-foot humanoid outline, same patient stillness, but this time it didn't run when you spotted it. This time the thermal image remained stationary, visible, almost inviting observation. Chen called it in immediately, coordinating response teams, but you kept your eyes on the scanner, watching that massive silhouette tilt its head in a gesture you'd seen before. Acknowledgement, recognition. It remembered you from that first night, remembered that you'd seen it when no one else could, remembered that you'd pointed a weapon at something invisible and had the courage, or stupidity, to almost fire. And now it was giving you a choice: run and be forgotten, or stay and be evaluated. The clicking sound started again, rhythmic and patient, and you realized with crystalline clarity that you'd just been selected for the next phase of testing. The predator had finally found you worthy of its attention. You didn't run. Every instinct screamed to move, to break line of sight, to get distance between yourself and that thermal signature watching from the rooftop. But your legs locked in place, weapon raised, finger on the trigger of a gun that felt like a child's toy against something that had battered Luke Cage into unconsciousness. Chen was screaming coordinates into her radio, response teams mobilizing across the city, but her voice sounded distant, underwater, drowned out by the clicking that grew louder with each second. The thermal signature moved, not toward you, downward, descending the building's exterior with fluid grace. 8 feet of invisible death climbing down brick and metal like gravity was a suggestion it chose to ignore. 30 feet, 20 feet, 10. Your scanner showed it reach ground level 15 meters from your position, and then the signature did something that stopped your heart. It stood up to full height and remained perfectly still, waiting. Chen grabbed your arm, trying to pull you back to the van, her tactical training overriding curiosity. Webb, we extract now. Response team is 2 minutes out. But you shook her off gently, eyes locked on your scanner, watching that massive outline just standing there in the middle of the street, not attacking, not advancing, just waiting with the patience of something that had hunted across galaxies and knew that prey always broke first. You took one step forward, then another. Chen stopped protesting, hand moving to her own weapon, covering your approach even though you both knew it was meaningless. At 10 meters distance you could hear it breathing, or something like breathing, a rhythmic hiss that sounded mechanical and organic simultaneously. At 5 meters, the clicking stopped, and in the sudden silence, you heard your own heartbeat thundering so loud you were certain it could hear it too. "Aina." "Ow, you're there," you said, voice steadier than you felt, weapon aimed at empty air. "I saw you that first night. I'm seeing you now." Nothing. Just that breathing sound and the faint shimmer of heat distortion that your naked eye could barely register. Then, slowly, deliberately, the shimmer intensified. Technology engaging, systems powering down, camouflage failing not from damage but from choice. And suddenly, you could see it. 8 feet of biomechanical horror materialized 5 meters in front of you, armor covered in trophies you recognized, shield badges, military insignia, a Roxxon security patch. Its face was a nightmare of mandibles and mesh, yellow eyes studying you with intelligence that felt older than human civilization. It had chosen to be seen, chosen to let you witness what had been hunting New York for 17 days. And the clicking sound started again, softer now, almost conversational. Its hand moved to its helmet, massive clawed fingers releasing catches you couldn't see. The mask separated with a hiss of pressurized atmosphere, and for the first time you saw its true face. 4 mandibles framing a mouth designed for tearing meat, skin mottled like a reptile's, eyes that held no malice, no rage, only cold assessment. It clicked at you. 3 short bursts, 1 long, and you realized it was communicating. Not in anger, not in threat. It was greeting you, acknowledging a worthy opponent in the same way a chess master nods at a player who's made an interesting move. Behind you, Chen's voice was a whisper. "Oh God, Webb, don't move, please don't move." But the predator wasn't looking at her, it was looking only at you, studying your stance, your weapon positioning, your breathing pattern, evaluating whether you qualified for the honor of being hunted. The response team arrived in a cascade of tactical vehicles and searchlights, 12 armed shield agents, combat-ready, weapons trained on the predator from 6 different angles. Your radio erupted with orders to fall back, establish perimeter, maintain firing line. The predator's eyes flickered toward the new arrivals, head tilting in that gesture of acknowledgement, mandibles spreading in what might have been amusement. Then it moved. Not away, toward them. Crossing 30 feet in less than 2 seconds, armor blurring with speed that made enhanced humans look slow. You heard weapons fire, saw muzzle flashes light up the street, watched bullets impact armor and ricochet into the night. The predator didn't slow. It reached the nearest agent, grabbed him by the throat with one massive hand, lifted him off the ground, and held him there. Not squeezing, not killing, just demonstrating, showing everyone present exactly how fragile they were. It dropped the agent, alive, gasping, terrified, and activated its cloaking mid-motion, vanished completely while still surrounded by 12 trained operatives with weapons drawn. You tracked its movement on your scanner, watched the thermal signature weave through the shield formation like a shark through a school of fish. It touched each agent as it passed, a tap on the shoulder here, a brush against body armor there, letting them feel its presence without harming them. Proving a point. You're not prey yet, you're still just obstacles. The agents spun in circles, firing at shadows, their discipline breaking as invisible claws marked them one by one. In 15 seconds, it had touched all 12 without inflicting a single injury. Then the thermal signature moved back toward you, stopping 5 feet away, and you felt hot breath against your face despite seeing nothing. The clicking came again, right next to your ear, intimate as a lover's whisper. And then you felt it. Cold metal pressed against your chest, razor sharp but not cutting, just resting there over your heart. Its blade. A wrist-mounted weapon that could have opened you from sternum to spine, but instead just touched you gently, almost reverently, marking you, choosing you. The pressure increased slightly, enough to draw a single drop of blood, and then withdrew. When your scanner showed the thermal signature moving away, climbing back up the building it had descended, you touched your chest and felt the wetness there. It had cut you precisely enough to break skin without causing real damage. A promise, a warning, a declaration of intent. You'd been selected. When the predator decided to hunt for real, you would be among the prey it deemed worthy of remembering. Chen pulled you back to the van, medical kit already out, checking the wound that was barely a scratch, but felt like a brand. "You're insane," she whispered, cleaning the cut with shaking hands. You walked right up to it. You spoke to it. "Webb, that thing could have..." But you weren't listening. You were watching your scanner as the thermal signature reached the rooftop and stopped, one last time, turning back to face your position. The clicking sound echoed across the distance, 3 bursts and 1 long note. The same pattern it had used before. And you understood, with the terrible clarity of someone who'd just stared into the eyes of their own mortality, exactly what it had said. "I see you. You are acknowledged. When I return, you will be hunted with honor." The predator vanished into the night, and you knew with absolute certainty that Luke Cage's beating had been a test. But what came next would be the real hunt, and humanity's champions were about to learn what it meant to face something that respected them enough to kill them properly. The cut on your chest healed within days, the memory never would. SHIELD mandated 48 hours medical leave, psychological evaluation, standard protocol for agents who'd experienced direct contact with enhanced threats. But sitting in the psych office, answering questions about trauma responses and stress indicators felt like play-acting normalcy while the real world burned outside. Dr. Morrison asked if you felt afraid, and you almost laughed. Fear was the wrong word. Fear implied uncertainty, the possibility of escape. What you felt was inevitability, like standing on train tracks watching headlights approach, knowing the collision was coming but unable to move. The Predator had marked you, not for immediate death, for something worse, for the honor of being remembered. When Dr. Morrison cleared you for duty, you saw the doubt in her eyes. She knew you weren't okay, but S.H.I.E.L.D. needed bodies, and yours was still breathing. New York transformed into a city of shadows. The optimism that followed the Avengers' formation, the sense that humanity finally had protectors who could handle any threat, evaporated like morning mist. People stopped going out after dark. Rooftops became forbidden territory. Even the criminals went quiet, gang violence dropping to nothing because everyone understood that something worse than police was watching. The streets felt empty, despite millions of people still living there, a ghost town populated by the living who moved like prey animals, quick, quiet, always checking their surroundings. S.H.I.E.L.D. installed emergency response buttons on every corner in Manhattan, direct links to Avengers Tower. But you'd walked the patrols, seen those buttons gathering dust, and understood why no one pressed them. What's the point of calling for help against something that had already evaluated Earth's mightiest heroes and found them wanting? Day 20 brought the first confirmed hero kill. Not Luke Cage, who'd survived with injuries and trauma. Not a street-level vigilante operating on borrowed time. This time the Predator chose someone with actual power, actual reputation. Cloak and Dagger, the vigilante duo who'd been fighting organized crime in Hell's Kitchen for 2 years. Cloak's darkness manipulation abilities made him nearly impossible to track. Dagger's light daggers could pierce any armor. Together they'd taken down drug operations, trafficking rings, entire criminal networks. S.H.I.E.L.D. had files on them, potential Avengers material, pending formal recruitment. The Predator found them during a routine patrol, engaged them in an alley near the docks, and killed them both in under 3 minutes. Security footage from a nearby warehouse caught the end. Dagger's light flickering and dying, Cloak's darkness collapsing into itself, and a massive shape standing over their bodies before vanishing. The crime scene was different this time, more elaborate, more ritualistic. The Predator had taken time with these kills, arranged them carefully, made them into art. Cloak and Dagger's bodies were positioned facing each other, hands almost touching, a warrior's farewell between honored opponents. Their skulls had been removed with the same surgical precision seen in previous victims, but new elements appeared, symbols burned into the ground around them, markings in a language that predated human civilization, what Dr. Foster later identified as ceremonial combat notation. The Predator wasn't just hunting anymore, it was commemorating victories, recording them according to some ancient tradition that treated murder as sacred ritual. You stood at the perimeter, watching forensics document everything, and felt that cut on your chest burning like it was fresh. This was what awaited you when your turn came. Not savage violence, respectful execution. The Avengers convened an emergency session. Every available hero, every reserve member, everyone who'd ever carried the title gathered in the tower's main briefing room. Captain America stood before them with the kind of expression soldiers wear when they know the battle's already lost, but have to fight anyway. "We're changing our approach," he said, voice steady despite everything. "No more solo operations. Minimum 3-person teams for all patrols. We coordinate every movement, maintain constant communication, and we do not engage alone under any circumstances." Iron Man projected holographic data showing the Predator's hunting patterns, thermal analysis, projected strike zones. It's escalating. First combat-trained humans, then enhanced individuals, now established heroes. Next targets will be high value, Avengers level or equivalent. The implication hung heavy in the air. None of them were safe anymore. You attended that briefing from the observation deck, watching Earth's champions strategize against an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't track, couldn't predict. And you noticed something they hadn't verbalized yet. The Predator wasn't escalating randomly, it was working up a ladder. Each kill more impressive than the last, each victim more powerful, more skilled, more worthy of remembrance. Cloak and Dagger were better than Luke Cage. Whoever came next would be better than them. The Predator was building a resume of honor, collecting trophies that told a story of increasing challenge, And at the top of that ladder stood the Avengers themselves, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, the beings this city considered gods made flesh. The real hunt hadn't even begun yet. Everything up to now was just the preliminary phase, sorting prey into categories of worth. Chen found you after the briefing, looking worse than you'd ever seen her. Dark circles under her eyes, hands trembling slightly, the signs of someone running on caffeine and terror. "I've been analyzing the data," she said, pulling up files on her tablet. "Every victim, every crime scene, every encounter, there's a progression. It's not random selection, it's systematic evaluation of Earth's defensive capabilities. First, it tested regular humans with combat training, then enhanced humans, then superpowered individuals. And now..." She didn't finish. Didn't need to. You both understood what came next. The Predator had spent 3 weeks learning humanity's capabilities, studying response times, analyzing power levels, cataloging exactly what Earth could throw at it. And when it finally decided it had gathered enough data, when it moved from study into actual warfare, Earth's heroes would face something that knew every trick, every tactic, every weakness they possessed. That night you dreamed of the clicking, not distant, not threatening, but close and almost gentle, like a parent soothing a child before bed. You dreamed of standing in that alley again, weapon raised, facing something that could kill you in a heartbeat, but chose patience instead. You dreamed of the moment its blade touched your chest, the precise pressure that communicated respect and promise simultaneously. And you woke in your apartment at 3 a.m., hand pressed against the scar, feeling your own heartbeat, and wondering how many more times it would beat before the Predator decided you'd waited long enough. Outside your window, New York stretched dark and silent. Somewhere in those shadows, something was watching, learning, preparing for the hunt that would make headlines across the galaxy. And you, Agent Marcus Webb, marked and chosen and honored with selection, counted the hours until it returned to claim what it had promised you, a death worthy of remembrance. Day 23 shattered the illusion of safety. Spider-Man went missing during a routine patrol in Queens, his neighborhood, his territory, where he'd stopped crimes for years with the kind of familiarity that breeds confidence. His last transmission to Avengers Tower was casual, almost joking. Got a weird heat signature on Aunt May's block, checking it out, probably nothing. Probably nothing became 2 hours of radio silence, became frantic searches by every available hero, became a citywide alert that had Tony Stark deploying every satellite and sensor in his arsenal. They found Peter Parker 4 hours later on a rooftop in Brooklyn, alive but barely recognizable. His mask was gone. 3 parallel claw marks ran down his face, deep enough to scar, precise enough to avoid his eyes. And carved into the roof beside him, burned with plasma that had melted tar and concrete, was a message in that alien script: fast, clever, not ready. The medical team at Avengers Tower worked on Peter while you stood in the observation room with a dozen other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, watching through reinforced glass as they cleaned wounds that shouldn't exist on someone with spider powers. Peter was conscious, talking through the pain medication, describing the encounter in fragments that got worse with each sentence. It matched my speed. Every move I made, it countered like it had seen it before. Web shooters didn't slow it down, just analyzed the trajectory and adapted. Spider sense screamed the whole time, but it didn't help. That thing moves like it can predict prediction. He touched his face gingerly, fingers tracing the claw marks. It could have killed me. I know it could have. But it just tested me, like a teacher grading homework, and I failed. Tony Stark stopped pretending the math would save them after that. You watched him in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays, plays showing threat assessments and probability matrices, all of them recalculating to account for an enemy that adapted in real time. "Jarvis has run every simulation," he said to the assembled team. "Every possible engagement scenario, every tactical configuration we can deploy. We don't win any of them. Not against something that learns faster than we can adjust, that turns our own capabilities into data points for its next attack." He paused, the arc reactor in his chest glowing in the dim light. It's not trying to conquer Earth. It's not trying to kill us all. It's trying to find out which of us is worth the effort of hunting properly. And every time we engage, we're giving it exactly what it wants: information. The debate that followed split the Avengers down philosophical lines. Captain America argued for direct confrontation. Locate the Predator. Engage with overwhelming force. End the threat before more people died. We can't let it pick us off one by one. Every day we wait, it gets stronger, and we get more afraid. But Bruce Banner countered with the kind of quiet logic that made everyone uncomfortable. It's already stronger. It's been stronger since it arrived. The only reason any of us are alive is because it's choosing to let us live until we prove ourselves worthy of its attention. Confrontation isn't brave, it's suicide with extra steps. Natasha Romanoff, who'd survived the Red Room and faced down gods, sat silent in the corner, and her silence spoke louder than any argument. She'd seen this thing up close. She knew. Thor arrived on day 24, summoned from Asgard by urgent message, and his presence changed the atmospheric pressure in the room. Here was a god, a being who'd fought across the 9 realms, whose hammer could level mountains and redirect cosmic forces. If anyone could match the Predator in single combat, surely it was Thor. He listened to the briefings with the kind of attention warriors give to worthy opponents, studied the crime scene photos, examined the plasma burns and ritual markings, and then he said something that made your blood freeze. I have heard tales of such hunters, legends from civilizations long dead, warnings carved into ruins on worlds that no longer remember their own names. The Yautja, honor-bound, ritual-driven, impossible to dissuade once they've chosen hunting grounds. If one has come to Midgard, it seeks not conquest, but glory. You were assigned to Thor's protection detail, not because he needed protection, but because S.H.I.E.L.D. protocol demanded someone document whatever happened next. You rode in the tactical van with Chen, following Thor as he walked openly through Manhattan streets, practically inviting confrontation. He's using himself as bait, Chen whispered, scanning thermal readings that showed nothing unusual. Drawing it out by presenting a target it can't ignore. You understood the strategy and hated it simultaneously. Thor was offering the Predator exactly what it wanted: a worthy opponent, a challenge that justified the hunt, a trophy that would mean something in whatever warrior culture had sent this thing to Earth. And somewhere in the shadows, you knew it was watching, evaluating, deciding if a god qualified for the honor of being hunted. The attack came at sunset in Times Square, the most public location possible, surrounded by civilians and cameras, and 1,000 witnesses who would remember what happened next. Thor sent Ode in the center of the square, Mjolnir in hand, scanning rooftops with eyes that could track movements across dimensions. You watched from the tactical van 2 blocks away, every sensor array pointed at his position, waiting for the thermal signature that would announce the Predator's arrival. It never came. No heat distortion, no electromagnetic anomaly, no warning at all. One moment Thor stood alone. The next he was flying backward through the air, hammer dropping from his hand, blood spraying from a massive gash across his chest. The Predator materialized mid-attack, cloaking failing as it landed, and for the first time New York's civilians saw what had been hunting their city for 3 weeks. The footage went viral within minutes. Shaky cell phone videos showing 8 feet of armored nightmare standing over a fallen god, mandibles spread in what might have been satisfaction. Thor rose, retrieving his hammer, calling down lightning that should have incinerated anything mortal. The Predator moved through the electrical discharge like it was rain, armor-absorbing energies that could power cities, and engaged Thor in hand-to-hand combat that shattered concrete and sent shockwaves through nearby buildings. They fought for 2 minutes, an eternity in superhuman combat, and you watched on your monitors as Thor, Prince of Asgard, warrior of 1,000 battles, slowly began to lose ground. Not from lack of skill, from lack of adaptation. The Predator learned his fighting style in real time, countered each strike with increasing precision, turned Thor's own momentum against him, and when it finally knocked him down again, it did something worse than killing him. It stopped, stepped back, and walked away, leaving Thor alive and beaten in the middle of Times Square. Chen's voice was barely audible over the tactical chatter flooding your comms. It didn't want to kill him, it wanted to prove it could. You watched the Predator's thermal signature appear on your scanner as it deactivated cloaking one final time, standing on a rooftop overlooking the square, clearly visible to every camera and witness. It raised one clawed hand in a gesture that transcended species, acknowledgement, respect, challenge, and then it activated some device on its wrist, and the entire block lit up with holographic projections. Skulls, hundreds of them. Trophies from across the galaxy, each one marked with symbols denoting the worthy opponents this hunter had claimed over centuries of honorable kills. Earth's heroes weren't the first, weren't the strongest, were just the latest in an endless procession of prey that had learned too late what it meant to be hunted by something that saw murder as art. The clicking sound echoed across Times Square, broadcast through whatever technology projected those ghosts, and you understood the message perfectly. Your champions have been tested. When I return, the real hunt begins. The footage of Thor's defeat played on every screen in every country within an hour. Not edited, not censored, just raw documentation of a god being systematically dismantled by something that treated divine power like an interesting puzzle to solve. The news anchors struggled for context, called it unprecedented, called it a wake-up moment for humanity's defenders. But you sat in the SHIELD Operations Center watching the video loop, and you saw what the commentators missed. The Predator had held back. Every strike it landed on Thor was calculated for effect, not lethality. It could have killed him in the opening seconds. The first blow had been precise enough to avoid vital organs despite the devastating force. Instead, it had fought just long A's, enough to prove superiority, then walked away, not from mercy, from disappointment. Thor was powerful, yes, but predictable, and predictability made him unworthy of being remembered. The global response was immediate and catastrophic. The UN convened emergency sessions, debating whether to classify the Predator as an extinction-level threat requiring nuclear response. Military forces mobilized around major cities, deploying weapon systems designed for alien invasion scenarios. SHIELD Director Hill fielded calls from a dozen world leaders demanding protection, demanding action, demanding that Earth's superhuman defenders actually defend something for once. But you could hear the exhaustion in her voice when she explained, again and again, that conventional military force was useless against an enemy that treated Earth's greatest warriors as training exercises. The truth no one wanted to admit publicly was spreading through every intelligence agency. Humanity had been weighed, measured, and found wanting. And the thing doing the measuring hadn't even started trying yet. Day 25 brought the escalation everyone feared. The Predator stopped testing individuals and started hunting in earnest. 3 attacks within 6 hours, coordinated across Manhattan like a military campaign. First target, Daredevil, tracked to Hell's Kitchen despite enhanced senses that should have detected any ambush. He survived, barely, found unconscious with fractured ribs and a message carved into the wall beside him: blind, brave, insufficient. Second target, the Punisher, hunted through a warehouse district he'd used as a safe house for 2 years. They found his weapons arranged in that familiar pattern, found blood but no body, found evidence of a fight that had demolished 3 buildings. Third target, Jessica Jones, ambushed in her own apartment, super strength proving useless against something that moved like thought itself. She woke in the hospital 12 hours later, whispering about mandibles and honor and the clicking sound that meant you'd been judged. You were on duty for the third attack, responding with Chen and a full tactical team to Jessica's apartment building. The scene was devastation. Walls collapsed, furniture reduced to splinters, structural damage that suggested superhuman combat. But no body, no trophy, just Jessica unconscious in the wreckage and that same burned message on the wall. Strong, angry, unrefined. The Predator was grading them, assigning value, determining which heroes qualified for permanent collection and which were merely worth injuring as a lesson. Dr. Foster examined the messages later, confirmed they were all written in the same alien script. each one a combat assessment rendered in a language older than human civilization. "It's building a hierarchy," she explained to the team, "ranking Earth's defenders by worthiness, and the higher you rank, the more likely it is to come back and finish what it started." The Avengers abandoned coordinated patrols after that. Staying together made them predictable, and predictability was death against something that learned patterns faster than they could change them. Instead, they scattered across the city in randomized configurations, moving every 6 minutes, communicating through quantum-encrypted channels that should have been unhackable. Tony Stark deployed countermeasures he'd been developing since the first attack: thermal scramblers, electromagnetic pulse fields, acoustic sensors tuned to detect cloaking technology. For 3 days, it worked. No attacks, no sightings, no thermal signatures. SHIELD analysts theorized the Predator had finally retreated, overwhelmed by Earth's adaptive defenses. But you knew better. You'd felt that blade against your chest, seen those yellow eyes studying you with patient intelligence. It hadn't retreated. It was watching Stark's countermeasures, learning them, preparing to demonstrate exactly how useless and ingenuity was against Yautja technology refined over millennia. Day 28 shattered Stark's illusions with surgical precision. Iron Man himself, encased in armor that could withstand nuclear detonation, ambushed in mid-flight over the East River. The attack lasted 40 seconds. Armor systems failed in sequence, first targeting, then propulsion, then life support, as the Predator demonstrated comprehensive understanding of Stark technology. Tony crashed into the river, systems rebooting, and surfaced to find the Predator standing on the water's surface, held aloft by some gravity manipulation technology that made physics look like a polite suggestion. It could have killed him while his armor was offline. Instead, it tapped his chest plate with one claw right over the arc reactor and vanished. The message was clear: "I know your weakness. I'm choosing not to exploit it yet." When Stark returned to the tower, you saw something in his eyes you'd never seen before. Genuine fear mixed with respect. The kind of emotion warriors show when they meet something better. Chen pulled you aside that night, voice low, eyes reflecting the same terror you felt crawling up your spine. "It's going to come for you soon," she said. "That mark on your chest, that's not a scar, that's a reservation. You're on its list, Webb. High enough priority that it marked you personally, but low enough that you're still breathing while it works through the bigger targets." You'd known this intellectually, had spent 3 weeks processing the inevitability, but hearing it stated plainly made it real in a way that statistics and analysis couldn't. "When it comes," Chen continued, hands shaking despite years of tactical training, "don't try to fight it. Don't try to run. Just make sure someone records what happens, so we know, so the next person has better data." She was already grieving you, all read. Die treating you as a casualty awaiting confirmation, and the worst part was she was right. That night you cleaned your service weapon, checked your armor, wrote letters you'd never send to family who couldn't understand what you'd seen. And you thought about Sarah Chen, the nurse, about the Harlem vigilante, about Cloak and Dagger positioned like lovers in death. The Predator gave its worthy opponents dignity in dying, made them into monuments, treated their deaths as sacred ritual worthy of remembrance across the stars. There were worse fates than being honored by something that understood warfare as art. You touched the scar on your chest, felt your own heartbeat steady and strong, and wondered if you'd scream when your turn came. Wondered if you'd fight with courage or beg for mercy. Wondered if, in those final moments when mandibles spread and blades descended, you'd understand why it had chosen you. The clicking sound echoed in your memory like a promise. Soon, very soon. The preliminary hunts were over, and Agent Marcus Webb, marked and chosen and honored with selection, was running out of time. Day 31 brought Captain America face to face with extinction, not death. Steve Rogers had faced death 1,000 times and learned to meet it with dignity. This was different. This was the moment America's greatest soldier discovered that courage and skill and unbreakable will meant nothing against something that had perfected warfare before his great-grandfather was born. The encounter happened in Central Park at dawn. witnessed by early joggers who'd thought the danger had passed. Steve was running tactical drills, maintaining readiness despite every instinct screaming that preparation was pointless. The predator materialized mid-stride, no warning, no thermal signature, just suddenly there like it had always existed in that space. The fight lasted 4 minutes. Steve used every technique he'd mastered across decades of combat. The predator countered each one with movements that suggested it had fought super soldiers before on other worlds, in other hunts that ended the same way. When it finished, Captain America was on his knees, shield cracked, bleeding from wounds that would take days to heal even with enhanced physiology. The predator stood over him, mask removed, mandibles clicking in what might have been respect or might have been satisfaction. It didn't take his skull, didn't claim him as a trophy. Instead, it pressed one massive hand against Steve's chest, over his heart, right where the shield's star would rest, and held it there for 3 seconds, a gesture of acknowledgement between warriors. Then it spoke. Not in English, not in any human language, but through some translation device that rendered alien concepts into words Steve could understand. You fight with honor, but honor without evolution is just decorated failure. It vanished before Steve could respond, leaving America's symbol of freedom kneeling in the dirt, understanding for the first time that there were battles even he couldn't win. SHIELD evacuated non-essential personnel that afternoon. Director Hill made it voluntary, but you could see the writing on the wall. Anyone with sense was leaving while they still could. The city had become a hunting preserve, and staying meant accepting you were prey. Chen packed her desk in silence, hands moving mechanically through years of accumulated files and personal effects. She didn't ask if you were leaving. You both knew the answer. That mark on your chest was a brand, a contract signed in your own blood. Running would just mean dying somewhere else, alone and forgotten. At least here, if you died with whatever dignity the predator granted its chosen prey, someone might remember, might tell your story, might understand that you'd been selected for something that transcended simple murder. Chen hugged before she left, held on longer than professional distance allowed, and whispered, "Make it mean something." You spent the next 2 days on solo patrol, walking streets that felt like graveyards waiting to be filled. SHIELD had stopped pretending it could protect anyone. The Avengers had withdrawn to the tower, strategizing last-ditch plans that everyone knew were theater. New York existed in a strange limbo, not conquered, not destroyed, just profoundly humbled. The clicking sound followed you everywhere now, sometimes distant, sometimes close enough to feel breath on your neck. Your scanner showed thermal anomalies that appeared and vanished like ghosts. The predator was tracking you, studying your movements, deciding when and where to claim what it had promised. You stopped sleeping, stopped eating regularly, just walked and waited and touched the scar on your chest like a talisman against fear that couldn't be talismaned away. Night 33, your scanner locked onto a signature that didn't vanish. Rooftop. 6 blocks from your position, 8 feet tall, perfectly still, making no attempt to hide. You understood immediately. This was the invitation. The predator was done waiting, done studying, done preparing. It wanted you to come to it, to walk into your own execution with the courage that had earned you selection in the first place. You called it in to SHIELD, knowing no one would arrive in time, knowing this was always meant to be private. Then you started walking. Each step felt like descending into cold water, pressure increasing with every block, every floor, every stair that brought you closer to the rooftop where something waited with mandibles and honor and blades sharp enough to carve your name into eternity. The building was abandoned, scheduled for demolition, which meant no witnesses except security cameras that would capture thermal ghosts and nothing more. You climbed 15 flights of stairs in silence, weapon holstered because you understood it was ceremonial now, armor adjusted because dying in proper kit felt important. Your heart hammered against ribs that felt too fragile to contain it. Your breath came shallow despite years of conditioning, and with each floor, the clicking grew louder, more distinct, like countdown to an execution you'd volunteered for. At the 14th floor, you stopped, hand pressed against the stairwell wall, and allowed yourself one moment of pure human terror. You didn't want to die, didn't want to become a skull in some alien trophy room, didn't want your last moments reduced to ritual and honor and the cold mathematics of worthiness. But you kept climbing anyway, because the Predator had seen something in you worth remembering, and dying with courage was the only way to prove it right. The rooftop door was already open. You stepped through into cold night air and saw it immediately. No cloaking, no hiding, just standing at the far edge of the roof in full visibility. 8 feet of biomechanical perfection, armor adorned with trophies from hunts across the galaxy, yellow eyes tracking your approach with intelligence that made you feel transparent. It clicked at you, the same 3 short 1 long pattern from that first night, and you realized it was calling you by name, not web, not agent, but something in its language that meant the one who saw, who stood, who was chosen. You walked forward on legs that barely held your weight, stopped 10 feet away, and met its eyes. "I'm here," you said, voice steadier than you felt. "I came like you knew I would." The Predator's mandibles spread, and for the first time you saw something that might have been approval in those alien features. It moved then, crossing the distance between you in 2 steps, and you forced yourself not to flinch. Its hand came up slowly, claws extended, and touched your chest over the scar it had left 3 weeks ago. The cut was healed, but the skin remembered, and you felt heat radiating through the contact. It clicked again, different pattern, more complex, and you understood it was asking a question. Are you ready to be remembered? Every instinct screamed to run, to fight, to do anything except stand still while death personified held your heart in its palm. But you'd spent 3 weeks watching this thing honor its prey with dignity, had seen it spare the unworthy and claim the brave, had understood that in its cold calculus, being selected was a privilege most would never earn. You nodded once, slowly. The Predator's eyes held yours for 3 more seconds. Then it stepped back, mandibles clicking in what sounded unmistakably like satisfaction. And you realized with crystalline horror that the hunt hadn't ended. It had just begun. The Predator didn't kill you, not yet. Instead, it gestured toward the rooftop's edge, mandibles clicking in a pattern that your mind translated without understanding how. Watch. You moved to the ledge, legs obeying despite every rational thought screaming to run, and looked down at Manhattan spread below like a circuit board of lights and life. The city that never sleeps, they called it. The city that had learned to fear the dark. And as you watched, the Predator activated something on its wrist bracer, technology that made the air shimmer and fold, and suddenly you could see them. Heat signatures, dozens of them, scattered across rooftops and alleyways throughout Manhattan, 8 feet tall, motionless, patient. You'd been so focused on the one hunter that you'd missed the obvious truth. It had never been alone. An entire hunting party had been watching Earth for 33 days, and your Predator had simply been the scout, the one who tested prey and marked the worthy. Your blood turned to ice as understanding crashed through you like a physical blow. Every disappearance, every attack, every test that had terrorized New York for a month. Those were just one hunter's preliminary evaluations. Now the real pack had arrived, and they'd been studying the data your Predator had collected, learning which humans fought with honor, which heroes warranted claiming as trophies, which prey qualified for the sacred ritual of being hunted by multiple Yautja warriors working in coordinated packs. The thermal signatures began moving simultaneously, descending from their observation posts, converging on locations throughout the city, Avengers Tower, SHIELD headquarters, the streets where superpowered individuals patrolled. This wasn't an invasion, it was the opening ceremony of a hunt that would make your Predator's preliminary work look like gentle foreplay before the real violence began. "Why show me this?" you whispered, not expecting answer but needing to speak against the crushing weight of revelation. The Predator clicked, touched your shoulder with surprising gentleness, and you felt understanding flow through that contact like telepathy. Because you were worthy, Because you'd seen it that first night and stood your ground, because you'd walked up to invisible death with a weapon and courage and the kind of foolish bravery that transcended species. It was honoring you with knowledge, showing you the truth before the end. Earth's heroes had been evaluated across 33 days of systematic testing, and they'd passed. Not the test of whether they could defeat the hunters, that was never in question. They'd passed the test of whether hunting them would bring glory to the Yautja who claimed their skulls, the Marvel U. Neverse, with all its gods and super soldiers and technological wonders, had qualified as worthy prey, and worthiness was the most terrible gift the Predator could grant. Below, the first screams began, not civilian screams. The Predator ignored non-combatants by ancient law. These were warrior screams, heroes engaging multiple hunters simultaneously, discovering that the entity they'd fought for a month had been holding back, had been alone, had been gentle. Your scanner lit up with thermal signatures in combat, and even from this distance you could track the patterns. Iron Man surrounded by 3 hunters in the sky above Stark Tower. Captain America defending a shield position against 2 that moved like liquid death. Thor calling lightning that multiple Yautja simply walked through. Their armor technology centuries beyond anything Earth could comprehend. This wasn't a battle. It was a harvesting. The Predator who'd marked you stood beside you like a proud parent showing off their work, mandibles clicking in rhythms that sounded almost conversational. It had done well. Its reconnaissance had identified premium hunting grounds. The pack would feast on worthy skulls tonight. What about me? The words came out broken, barely audible over the distant sounds of combat. You marked me. You brought me here. What am I? The Predator turned to face you fully, removed its mask with that familiar hiss of pressure, and met your eyes with something that might have been respect or might have been pity. Then it did something you didn't expect. It placed its hand over your heart again, feeling your pulse racing with terror and adrenaline, and clicked 3 times, slowly, deliberately. The translation came unbidden. Witness. You weren't prey, weren't a trophy. You were documentation. The one human who'd truly seen the Predator for what it was, who'd faced it without the delusion of heroism or power. You were being honored with the cruelest gift, survival. Forced to watch as everything you'd tried to protect was systematically dismantled by hunters who saw murder as art. The Predator handed you something then, a device the size of a coin, warm and humming with power you couldn't identify. It pressed the object into your palm and clicked a final message. Remember us. Tell them what it means to be chosen. Then it stepped to the rooftop's edge, activated its cloaking mid-leap, and vanished into the battle below. You stood alone on that abandoned rooftop, holding alien technology and watching Manhattan burn with honorable combat, and understood the full scope of your selection. You would survive this night, would live to see dawn break over a city that had lost its champions to something that respected them enough to kill them properly, would carry the scars and memories and that clicking sound in your nightmares for whatever brief life remained before the Predator decided you'd witnessed enough and returned to claim its reserved trophy. The device in your hand activated automatically, projecting holographic images into the air before you. Skulls. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Species you'd never seen, from worlds whose names you'd never know, all of them marked with the same symbols of worthiness and honor. And at the end of that endless catalogue of the dead, a new section appeared. Earth. Your Predator's preliminary trophies were already being recorded. Sarah Chen, Cloak, Dagger, the Shield Agents, the Vigilantes. Each one documented with the reverence of a museum curator preserving sacred artifacts. More would be added tonight, many more. The Marvel Universe's greatest heroes would join that collection, transformed from living champions into eternal monuments to the glory of the hunt. And you would remember them all, would tell their stories, would explain to whoever survived that being chosen by the Predator wasn't curse or blessing but simple acknowledgement. You were worthy of being killed by something that understood death as the highest form of respect. Dawn came eventually, as it always does, painting the sky in colors that felt obscene against the night's horror. You descended from that rooftop, device heavy in your pocket, and found a city transformed. Not destroyed, the predators weren't conquerors, but fundamentally altered. SHIELD headquarters stood empty, its defenders claimed or scattered. Avengers Tower showed signs of battle that had demolished 3 floors. And throughout Manhattan, in alleys and on rooftops and in places that would become pilgrimage sites, you found the markers. Symbols burned into concrete, trophies arranged with ritual precision, messages in alien script that all said the same thing: they fought with honor, they are remembered. Some heroes survived. The Predator had limits, rules about worthy combat that protected those who'd proven insufficient. But the Marvel Universe's illusion of safety had been gutted as thoroughly as any trophy skull. Humanity's champions had learned what prey across the galaxy already knew: there's always something higher on the food chain. And when that something decides you're worthy of its attention, survival is just another word for being selected last. The clicking sound echoed in your memory, patient and eternal. And you wondered, as Chen had asked, if Earth still qualified as a worthy hunt. Or if the Predator would return someday, see what humanity had become after this lesson in humility, and decide whether the species had evolved enough to be hunted again. The end. If the Yautja returned to Earth a decade from now, after humanity rebuilt and adapted, would they find worthier prey or easier targets?